Okay, so we already learned about the basic object-oriented programming, and I hope that you can understand about the basic concept. So let me review a little bit about the class diagram. So in the class diagram, we have at least three components. Okay, so the first is the class name. Yeah, we will have the class diagram with the class name. And then the second is the field, all data members. And the last one is the behavior or methods. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. So at least three components in one class diagram. And you will make this in your Java, and those three things are in the object oriented. Okay. So in this example, we will have the data, the class name is point, and then we have two data members. We have two variables, which is x and y, and then we have three methods: set location, translate, and distance. So whenever you define your class, you need to understand these three components. So this is about the overview about the class. We have the point class, and then the field or the data member, we have two variables, which is x and y, and the behavior or the methods, we have three methods. So in this case, the set location, we have two parameters, and then the translate method, we also have two parameters, and we have method distance with one parameter. Now let's continue with this one. I guess last time we did this part, so we already finished to understand the main and the point main. Okay. In the point main, in the point, we have two data members. Okay, we have two data members, which is x and y. So the above code creates a new type point. Yeah, the name is point, and in the point we can have at least two data, which is x and y. So in this case, we have only data members, but it does not contain any behavior. What is the meaning by behavior? We don't have any method. Okay, so there is no method in this example. So if you take a look on the point main in the example, okay, so we have two data members, x and y, and then we have point main, and the point main access the point. Okay, so we have this point. If you press Control, okay, I press the Control keyboard. So in the keyboard, you can see there is a control button, and then you move your mouse into this point and you click, then you will go to the class point. So it means the point main will call the Java, and it will create one object, which is P1. Okay, so I already explained this one with the table in the previous class. So I hope that you can review with that video. Now we will go to the next. We can think with different kind of class. So in our example, we have point. So in the point, we have X and Y. Okay. But if we want to change, for example, I want to create a class and the class name is student. Maybe I would like to have the student name, and then I would like to know about the student GPA. So do you know GPA? This is the grade point average, học chấm, GPA. So if it is a name, then I define the data type as string. And if it is a GPA, I define the data type as double. Yeah, so you can think with many things. For example, if I want to make a class book, public class book, okay, what will be the data type, or what will be the data members? So you can create, for example, string book ID, okay, and then for example, string book name. Okay, so that's the two. Or maybe you want to include with integer price, for example. Okay, so you can create in any cases, in any kind of problems. So in your team project, yeah, you can also create this kind of things. If maybe in next week we will learn about the GUI. So when you know about the GUI, you will be able to create the user interface and then connect to one or two classes. So we will learn more about this one. Now, if we want to access the field, we just call the variable. So let's say if I have P1, which is a new point, and then I have P2, which is a new point. So I can just say like, can I write this one here? Okay, so I can say like this one. So the P1 is a new object, and then I have P2, it is another object, and then for every object, it will have X and Y. Okay. Now you can see that there is no other value to define the X and Y for P1 and P2. So P1.x, it will be 0. Okay. Because the original or the initial value will be 0. And the P2, when we create this object, it starts also with 0. But now we have this statement, P2.y equals to 13. Then this value is changed into 13. Okay, so basically the idea is like this one. We want to access this variable y and then change the value according to this statement. So this idea, you can say something like this. I have the point, the Java, and then in the point, the Java, there are two variables, x and y. And then I have another class. And in this class, we call this is the client program. So the client program should include main method. Okay. So the main method, here we will call the point. Okay. So this is the point. It means I would like to call this point. After I call, so I created one object. Okay. So I created one object here. I created one object which is P1, and then I have the X and then Y, because there is no further definition about the X and Y in the pointer Java. So here it starts with 0. So the value is 0 and 0. But now you can see here P1.x is 7 and P1.y is 2. So we want to set x equal to 7 and then y equals to 2 for the object P1. Now we create the object P2. So there is a new object P2, and then P2 x dot x. So it means I want to change the variable x in the object P2. We change into 4, and then the y we change into 3. Okay, so using this way, yeah, we can modify, we can access the data, and you will get something like this one. Okay, so yeah, if I create the table, it will be something like this. Now we need to understand about null. Okay. If we have the data as integer or double, the initial value will be 0. Okay. So for example, if I want to say like, if I have the integer x, so something like this one, then it means I can say that the x will be starting from 0. Okay. However, if we deal with object, okay, we will find null. What is null? Null is a reference that does not refer to any object. So there is no object. Okay, so that's why we call it null. The element of an array of objects are initialized to null. So if you have no definition, then the initial value will be null. Let's say this one. I have string, and then I have one array, and then words, okay, and then I have the string with the size 5. So 5, it means I will have this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 locations, or there are 5 places. And then the index will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. If we do not provide any information, so we call this is an object. Why it is an object? Because it is a string, and this string is in the form of array, and for every of this one, if you do not specify any value, it will start from null. Yeah, so it will start from null. The same with point. So we have the class point. So for example, I want to have 3 points. Okay. Then I can make an array, because point is a Java class, actually string. String here is also a Java class. So point is a Java class, and I want to create 3 items. Okay. So whenever I create the 3 items, then there will be 3 places, 1, 2, 3. And what is the value here? We call it, this is the object point. For example, if I always make the table like this one, if I have 3, maybe this one. So P1, P2, P3. So I want to create 3 objects. I want to create 3 kind of data. So we call it that is an object. But I just define like this one. I just define that point is an array with 3 location. Because there is no specification about P1, then it starts with null, null, null. If I start like what I wrote before, like this, then I can know that the first object is P1, the second object is P2. But if there is no definition like this one, it is just an array, then the first object or the initial object will be null, 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 because we do not know what is this one, what is the point. So that's why you need to do something with null. If you want to store null in a variable or an array element, so you can define with null. String s equal to null. So let's say, let me make a new class. Oops. Let's say I have a testing class, and then I make main. Okay. So string s equals to null. Okay. It means there is nothing. I do not have any value for s. Sometimes we can say s1 equals to blank. Okay. So this one means blank. I do not want to put any value to s1. So it's the same with null. So if you print, what is the result? Null. But what is the result with s1? Nothing. Okay. So basically, you can say this is null. Null is anything which is not available, but this one is no value. Okay. If you print the null reference, yeah, of course you will get null. And then you can ask if it is null or not. Okay. So let's say if I want to explain like if s equals to null. Okay. And system.out, the print line, null. Yeah, I just want to print this one. Oops. I guess I need to, okay, I cannot use the equals because it is not a string. Null is null, it's not a string. So you need to use the equal sign. Okay, if you run this, then you will see null and null. Maybe if you want to say to see the difference, let me just give null 1. So the first means I see this is true, so I can print null 0 1. And the second one is to print the value of s. And sometimes we can also pass the null as a parameter to a method. And we can also return null from a method. So it is often to indicate failure. So if null, then maybe we cannot find the value. And now there will be a problem, okay, when you have a null value and you want to get some kind of function, let's say here, I have string words, and then I have 5 index or 5 location. And then I want to print the word 0 or the word in index 0. So let's see. Let me just delete this one part. So I would like to make a new array of string, and the variable name will be words. So there will be 5 locations. And then I would like to print what is the words in index 0. So the word in index 0 is null. There is no value in the index 0. If you want to do something on the words 0, let's say this is one example. We have this method, to uppercase. It means we want to make the demunja. Okay. So maybe the character is using lowercase. What is lowercase? A, B, C with small letter. Demunja is big A, big B, big C. Okay. So to uppercase is to change the small letter to the big letter. Okay, we call it uppercase. Now, if the word index 0 is null, is it possible to make it as an uppercase? The answer is no, because there is no object, there is no value. Even though this is correct, okay, even though there is no error, but you will get error when you execute your code. Okay? So be careful with this kind of error, because when you create your team project, once you create a lot of code, you may not recognize this kind of error. Okay, so there is no error in your code, but when you execute, there is an error. Okay, so last time I mentioned to you, make sure that you do the compilation. So the compilation means when the first is to check the error in your code. So if there is no error in your code, it means okay. And then the second one is check the error during runtime. So during runtime means you need to execute. If you execute it and if there is no error, then it means it is compiled. Okay. So I didn't check about your Kurum assignment, but yes, some of you did good job, but many of you still have issue with that Kurum. So I'll try to finish the assessment. Okay. So be careful with this kind of exception or with this kind of error. In order to minimize the error, so you can check. Okay. So you can check the errors. I said, for example, like this one. If I have the word, okay, then I want to check the index 0. Okay, I put the index 0 as hello, and then I put the index 2 as goodbye. Then the remaining, which is the index 1, index 3, and index 4, they are null. So in the visualization, I can say something like this. The index 0, now it becomes hello. The index 2, it becomes goodbye. So this one, index 0, and then this is index 2. What about the other index? Yeah, because there is no statement, so this one null, this one null, and this one also null. Then when you want to loop, okay, when you want to iterate, you use the for loop, and then you will loop with the integer, for example, I start from 0 until the length. There is no problem with this one. But before you do with the two uppercase, check whether the word is null or not. So this way is to avoid the errors. So if you check this one, okay, let me just copy and paste this to the testing. So if you do this one, oh, there is no, maybe I can just say one more, I can put one more statement, words I. Okay, what happened after I do the uppercase? So the original value is hello with small letters. And then after I change to uppercase, now it becomes hello with the big letter. Goodbye, small letter. After I change to uppercase, so now it becomes goodbye with big letter. Okay. So this is one way to avoid the errors. Or the second way, yeah, we can use the initialization. What is the meaning by initialization? So first we can initialize the array, and you know that it will give you null for every object. So before you do the next operation, then define something in each of the object. So for example, this one, if you want to create an object, let's say this is, yeah, a string, okay, and then when you have the object words, I would like to start from index 0 until the length, and for every of these words I would like to give the word plus I is the number, because it is string, it is number, so string plus number, it becomes string. Okay. So if I can print this words I, so the result will be word 0, word 1, word 2, word 3, because we have only 4 items, we have 4 size, and then for every words we put the word and the I. So the I start from 0, and then 1, and 2, and then 3. Okay. So that's about the null. Okay. So whenever you have the array and whenever you have the object, be careful about null. Now I would like to continue about the object behavior or methods. We learned already about static method. Okay. Now in this case, we will learn about non-static method. Okay. So what is the difference between static method and non-static method? In our code, okay, we want to make a translation method. Okay. What does it mean by translation method? So the translation method means I want to change the value of x and y. So let's suppose I have like this x, and then I have y. Okay. and maybe the so this is x and this is y, and then 1 2 3, maybe 1 2 3. Okay, so for example, I have a point here, 1.1, and then I want to translate. It means I want to change this node into this. So now it becomes 3, 2. So the original x is, oh, why it is deleted? So maybe the original x is 1 and the original y is 1. Now I want to change to x equal to 3 and then y equals to 2. So there will be a dx. Dx is like the distance. So in order to change from 1 to 3, then there will be a dx equal to 2. In order to change the y from 1 to 2, then there will be a dy or delta y, and the delta y equals to 1. Okay, so the new x will be the last x, which is 1, plus dx. So the value of 1 will be added by 2, and the new x will be 3. So it will be the same with this one. The same with y plus equal to dy. So the dy is 1, then y will be plus equals to 1. So the current y is 1. So 1 plus equal to 1, then y will be equal to 2. Okay, so this is the meaning by translate. We want to translate from one point to another point. To translate the original points to the new points, the code must be repeated. So we can remove this redundancy using a method. Okay, so we can just make a method, because whenever the user want to modify the point, they can use the method. Now, you will think that let's make a method like this one. We already learned the static method. Okay? In the static method, it means I want to create this method in the client program. Okay? In the client program means in the point main.java. If you have the main method, yeah, so we call this is the client program. Okay? So in the main method, we have the method to call the point, and then we create this behavior. What is this behavior? Yeah, we always create the point and then integer dx and then integer dy. So every time when we want to add the point, we need to consider which object. So in the method, we will always do like this one. Translate point index I, and then plus 2 for the x, and then plus 3 for the y. This method is not bad, but this method will be redundant, because every time you need to define the p, every time you need to define the point. Okay. Actually, with the static solution, so we call it that is the static method. Okay. we call the static method. It's too small. Okay, no way to increase this. Okay, so the static method, yeah, with this static method, there are some problems. So we are missing a major benefit of objects. It means we cannot reuse the code. Okay? So every time we will call the point, comma x, comma y, point, comma dx, comma dy. Okay? So every program that draws points would need to translate, would need a translate method. Then what we can do is, if we use this translate, actually this point makes the object is not clear, or we can say it is that solution. Because every time you need to define the point, you need to define the point. However, when you do with the class or with the object oriented, you can specify the object. So instead of making the object as a parameter, you can make the object here. And then you can use dot. What does it mean by dot? So dot, when you press the dot, you will see methods. Okay? When you press the dot, you will see what kind of behaviors that you can use. So the point of classes is to combine state and behavior. Maybe I can just say this state is referring to the data, and then so this state is about the data, and then the behavior is about the method. And we have this point as an object, and this is the behavior. That's why whenever you create a class, okay, so for example, if you know here, system. In Java, system is a class. Okay. So Java is a class. So if you want to see this one, system is a class. And then whenever you create, for example, you call dot, you will see a lot of behaviors. So you can see now here, you have the array copy, console, and etc. And you always use system.out. Okay. And then when you press dot again, you will have a lot of other behaviors. For example, print. Okay, so you can have print something like hello. So this is the behavior, or this is the method. Now, this is the method provided by Java. How if you create your own method? So we will do that one. So we will create our own method, and the method here is our own method, and this method will be able to access the object. So we do not need to make a method with parameters like this one, because this is an object. So instead of making the object as the parameter, we can just use the object and then call the method. So for example, this one. In the class point, okay, in the Java class point, I can put one method, and the method is translate. And now I don't need to put the static. Why? Because this has no correlation with the main method. So it is not a static, it is dynamic. In the case of dynamic means every object is dynamic. So let's say if I have the object P1, so the object P1 can access this method. If I have another object P2, this object P2 can access this translate method. Then every object can access this method. That's why we call it this is dynamic. But in the static, it is not related with object. Okay? It is only a static. And then once you call the method, you can just use the method with a static class. So I think I will explain with this object first. I will go back with the static later. So in this case, I will have the non-static method with this x equal to x plus dx. We define two parameters, dx and dy, and y will be added with the dy. The translate method has a point p parameter. So in the previous example, we have this translate with point parameter. Then we want to change this point. So if I have the x, for example, if I have P1 and then if I have P2, I want to translate the object P1. I do not want to translate the object P2. Then how can we use that one? So we can, if we use this solution, then we will do translate P1, comma, for example, 2, 3. So we will always call the object name here. But if we use this way, we will just use the object P1 dot translate. So every object can access the method easily. Like this one, translate is x comma y. Okay. So that's the meaning by this non-static method. If you want to know which point is to translate, then we call the object name. We call the object location, for example, if it is an array. Then let's see the example. I guess I put it into the find min 2. No, not yet. So I will try to do this one. I can put this one, translate into this point to Java. Okay. If you put this translate into this point Java, then you will call from the point main. For example, this one. You want to move P2 dot x plus equal to. So it means you want to translate the x of the object P2 with 2, and then I want to move the object y plus 1. So instead of using this one, I can access the P2 and then I can use the translate x equals to 2 and y equals to 1. Because the first parameter is about the x and the other parameter is about the y. So you will get this one. The same result. Okay. Okay, I guess I need to stop now. So you can access the e-class to check the attendance.